Hello, everybody. We are blessed to have Roby here with us today at Ignite Conference. I think I'm really inspired by the way that you're just able to, put others before yourself. I wonder, was there a moment for you in your life where that kind of switched, where you kind of went, actually, my life is meant to be living for other people, and that was how your work at ECM kind of stemmed from that? Was there a moment that kind of defined that, or would you say it was a more natural, gradual thing?
Yeah, look, I think there's a few things going on. My whole life I was sort of raised by some good, really good, quite unique parents in the faith, and faith wasn't so much about practice and what we do in the way of Sundays and those things. We did all those things faithfully, but I was learning very early on that faith is selfless. It's about others. It's always about others. It's about willing the good of the other. It's about serving the other in a lavish nature, which is really, as an adult, I became sober to that stuff and went, wow, I understand now what they were talking about. I found the teenage years really difficult in the area of faith, and but sort of in the return and in the sort of personal faith journey and the relationship with Jesus, I really came to learn that actually the whole gospel is centered around others. Yeah. Jesus modelled that, and there was no greater image than many of the parables, but in a particular way, he's enacting that through the washing of the feet and a ritual that was not for a king or a lord or a saviour or certainly God to do to common tradespeople, his followers, those simple labourers. He showed them that he was prepared to wash their feet in that beautiful act of service and selflessness. So I was able to sort of find it all sort of aligned in time, and I went, wow, I get it. I think a lot of the faith journey, when you're sort of going along to church events, there is a bit of a selfish nature to it. You're going along for a fix, I can't wait for the worship, or I can't wait for the moment of reconciliation, or I can't wait for adoration. They're good things, but it doesn't stop there. Those crescendos in those songs and those moments on the knees of surrender, they're important, but they're somewhat they're moments to be fueled to go out, to be selfless. So there's many moments. I think one moment was where I was almost reprimanded by a more senior man of God who sort of told me that one day in a beautiful moment that I had a lot to say for myself. He said it nicely, but you have a lot to say for yourself in what others aren't doing, suggesting the church is a selfish place. You're happy to point the finger at everyone else. What is it that you're doing, Robbie? Because if you channeled the very things you're suggesting and the points of frustration that you're proclaiming here and actually did something, you'd change the world. And I was really challenged by that. I respected this man dearly. I didn't say anything in response. I didn't try and contest it. He was right. He called me out of my cave, and I thought, I've got to just live the very thing that I'm called to. So that was another moment of selflessness, because I was sort of comfortable in the faith journey back in, and I'm doing this Jesus thing, but it's like I'm now starting to ridicule others who aren't doing things, but what am I doing? You know what I mean? Where am I modelling this very Jesus culture and stuff? And and just the tension and the friction around all that season, and just the pursuit and the desire and the sort of almost the bleeding of that time resulted in, I'm going to do something, you know what I mean? I've got to devote my whole life, and pursued that, explored that, and end up here in home city, you know what I mean? Just reaching out to the broken of our city on a daily basis with a beautiful team and beautiful family, and it's been a real privilege and honour to sort of have discovered the selfless nature of the gospel of Jesus.
Thanks, Roby. I love that challenge that man said to you, what are you doing about it? I think for us as young people, we can come to conferences like this, like Ignite, and like you said, have those moments in worship and in prayer. We're on our knees and we're like, yes, this is good, and we feel it in our hearts.
It's important, isn't it? Yeah.
But then we go home and we think, well, now what? How do we take that from the conference and then into what? How can we use that and go out? And so I guess I wonder if you have any advice for our young people. How can they be empowered through this conference to then go home and to reach out to those people like you do on the peripheries? Maybe it's people in school. What would be your advice?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've all got a mission field. Nobody doesn't have a mission field, and when you sort of put your hand up to say, you sing the bridge of that song, and Dom will say, let's do it again, and it's mean it, and you mean it with your heart and soul. You've just been assigned a mission. You've been assigned a role. You've collided with the greatest power on earth, grace of Jesus. So there's all these promises Jesus makes of his power, his grace, his strength, his words. He's going to give you what you need in the moment. And he says, do not be afraid, that many times in the word. So there's all these promises and guarantees from Jesus, but you've been given a role. Your mission field is right around you. To the point where, like for me, I went to school with a lad. I went to private school, really great Catholic education, and I'm now hosting at Emmanuel City Mission, or have in the last 3 months, a guy I went to school with in that same venue. Like he spent his whole adult life in homelessness.
Wow.
He was mistreated at school, so mistreated. I'm appalled to go down memory lane about how he was treated before class and lunch times and before and after school, events beyond the college campus. Wow, like he was so mistreated. And when I saw him maybe 6 or 7 years ago for the first time in a facility in the valley there, he was on a Saturday morning, he was really kind of guarded when I went up and approached him, and he didn't remember me. And he sort of suggested maybe I was sort of having a go at him, and he sort of gave me quite a brash response to just saying a good morning to him and offering him something to eat. And I went on to say, look, I think we went to school together, and I recited his name, and he looked at me, I'm not quite sure, man. Like, he looked a wreck, this lad. He was all sawed up, and, his feet were black, and, his fingers are all tobacco stains from sitting there rolling dumpers in the ground. And I'm just sitting there going, wow, like, look at where life has taken this lad. I've had a beautiful life. I've met my maker. He's blessed me with more than I can possibly fathom in his kingdom ways. And this fella's never really known any of that, not even close, And he said to me, as we sort of found some resolution in the conversation, he said to me, things like to the effect of, I dropped out in school at end of first term, year 11, and I was pretty much worthless, you know what I mean? He spoke of his worthlessness, and he spoke of those years and the effect it had. And as I said to many school groups, like, I'm not saying that was the catalyst for his homelessness or his mental health, his addiction, but certainly it's foolishness to suggest that these teenage years don't have impact on self-identity and those things. Yeah. So in the collision of all of that, the mission field for a young person from this conference starts there. Starts at school, starts in the family, starts in that really difficult sibling to love. It's about going the extra mile. You've now got the power, like the song said, set us apart to do your work, Lord. It was a very old song I wrote many years ago. But that song is still on trend because the message is still the same. Like, Lord, Spirit, fall down, let the power of God be released now. Set us apart to do your work. Well, what is his work? Well, his work's in the schoolyard. Yeah. His work's at your Macca's part-time job where they're all dumping on old mate who's just having a go, and he comes from struggle background. His work is in trying to get those at-risk youth into our circles and invite them along to our functions, even though they're inconvenient or troubled. Right through to our adult ministries and our adult mission fields. So we've all got a mission field, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's a long way of saying it. I've just come from a talk, so I'm feeling a little bit riled up. I would encourage young people just to look for the loners, look for the disengaged, the person on the periphery of all those different areas of your day-to-day life, and then look to serve in more profound, obvious, deliberate platforms beyond that to inform yourself, educate yourself, but know that the good news of Jesus is active. It's not just events. Yeah. It's not just songs. It ain't crescendos. It ain't just moments of sacraments. They empower us to go. But to go into very simple places, it doesn't have to be a brand or even, just day to day, Yeah. So that would be my encouragement to all your young folk, and live lives accordingly, professionally, and into the future, studies and areas of workplace and influence into the future as well. Create a society a bit like that, a church a bit like that. So, yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Like, each of us have the power to make change in our everyday lives. And we don't have to wait until we're somewhere else to do that.
Totally.
Yeah, I like that daily mission field. That's really good.
Yeah, cool.
Do you have any final thing you would want to say to these young people before we leave this interview?
Probably just a huge thanks. The Proclaim Lismore group, and I don't know if I'm using the right brands here, but just in general, the Lismore schools Dyson schools have been a really big support for many years, from our early days of blind eye branding right through to our reclaiming of our roots within Emmanuel City Mission. Just a huge thanks, guys. Some of the heavyweights, like your Matt the Dassels and your Kate Nesters and Dan Sabine, the other end of the lens there. Right through to many of the teachers and staff that have really made things happen. They've seen need. They've animated space to make resources happen. We've received things like washing machines from the groups that have seen a need. We've received many day-to-day resources, right through to some really kind financial gifts that have literally opened our door. So just a huge thanks to that whole army that is just down south of our diocese. Guys, thanks for being involved, and look forward to really sharing God's mission together, and really believing that He's going to just light a fire across the East Coast, and really take back that early church. Those first 300 years, we were known for benevolence. We weren't known for our liturgies and our structures and our sort of pomp and ceremony. Those things have a place, but we were known for charity. We were the place that took the nobodies, and I believe that's the calling on each young person's life, to be that church that is the place for the nobodies, using that expression. So encourage you deeply to stay engaged, and thanks for all the help you've given us thus far, guys. Bless you.
Wow. Thank you for those wise, raw words, Robbie.
No worries.